name of our show.
Well, that wasn't the right button, now was it? Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Large Class. I'm Todd.
I'm Terri.
And I just swear these buttons, there's so many buttons.
So many buttons.
And by the way, our sound sometimes goes out, as you know, and I know exactly why it happens, and I didn't prepare for that tonight. So I'm going to test fire something while we're having our show. My sound is going to go out momentarily, and then I'm going to fix it. So for those of you who just like to open up to a nice show about art with all my gobbledygook about technical glitches, welcome. It's nice to see you all. Pumpkin Audrey's here. Hello, Pumpkin Audrey.
Hi, Audrey.
Nice to see you. Let's see. I'm going to fire that off right now. So you're going to hear my sound go out for a second. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, we're back. And we're good to go for the rest of the night because that has all been... There's Mom. Good evening. Carolyn Thou just subscribed. Thank you, Carolyn. That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
And that is really cool. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I love that. Good to see you, Carolyn. So what do we got tonight? We got a good show.
We do have a good show. We have a lot of stuff going on.
We have so much going on. And tonight is going to be one of those shows where, you know, sometimes we run over. And we have a lot of video to show tonight, which is exciting.
It's mostly video.
It is mostly video.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a good time. Let's see. Let's drink. Should we start by opening up? You know, we run into this situation since we're gonna explain what we're drinking. You know, as you know, we try to pair what it is we're drinking at night since the beginning. That's true, Carolyn. You have the first in front of your name in the chat window. You've got one of the first badges, so you are one of the first subscribers from the beginning. We've run into this problem where we buy a certain type of beer or wine to drink with the show, and then the refrigerator starts to fill up with all this stuff week after week. So we have to start drinking it down.
We have to start drinking it
So
down.
rather than continuing to buy, tonight we're going to be drinking the same ones.
The same ones
that
we had last week.
Did we have these last week?
We did have these last week because they're from Georgia, and our artist was from Georgia last week.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. And we also remembered the other artists that were from Georgia. It was Ridley
Howard. and
Holly
Coolis.
So, yep.
Oh, Justice Man 27 is following. Thank you for the follow. That's awesome.
Very much.
Good to have you aboard. Here is yours.
Oh, I thank you.
This is that lovely dancing gummy bear by Terrapin Brewing Company, which has like this amazing hemp smell to it.
Super hemp edge.
And I'm having the blah 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 IPA, which goes very well with me.
And the ASMR won't be so great.
The ASMR on the beer tonight isn't going to work. But, you know, as a replacement for your ASMR, you can gaze upon my Mr. Rogers sweater.
Yes.
So,
like
here
your
is
sweater.
to episode 32.
Episode 32.
32. Cheers.
Cheers.
And cheers to all of you. Tell us what you're drinking out there.
Yeah.
And should we get the show on the road?
We should get the show on the road. We have a lot of stuff.
We do. Last week, we talked about how if we get to 25 subscribers, that we were going to give away a copy of The Secret Lives of Color by Kasia St. Clair. Now, my sweater isn't red. Yeah, but Mr. Rogers wore a light blue one, too.
Yeah, he wore a light blue one.
I thought he was more... I mean, yeah, I know the red one. I've got the red one, too. But I also have the blue one.
He did wear a red one, too, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think he had tennis shoes.
I'm going to get those.
Yep.
I am. So we're going to read a quick paragraph, not a whole passage. Do you want me to read?
I do.
Oh, all right. I'm going to read from The Secret Lives of Color really quickly because we want you to know how cool this book is. I mean, I love this book. Basically, what it boils down to is the book is divided into like 2-page chapters with a topic on each color and the history of how that color came to be, which I think is fantastic. And so I picked out Prussian blue tonight because it's a color I use a lot in my painting and tend to gravitate towards. So
Amanda Toolin says she loves that book.
Oh, yes.
That's pretty cool.
And do you love Prussian blue also? Because that's, I don't know.
Yeah, what's your favorite color?
What's your favorite color? I think that's something good to put in the chat.
because some of the stories are really juicy. I was trying to read Fluorescent Pink earlier.
We could pull that up.
Yeah.
All right, Prussian blue. Sometime between 1704 and 1706, in a dingy room in Berlin, a paint manufacturer and alchemist called Johann Jacob Diesbach was making up a batch of his signature cochineal red lake, a kind of paint made using an organic colorant and an inert binder or mordant. The chemical process was a relatively simple one, using iron sulfate and potash. On this day, though, when it came to the crucial stage, Diesbach realized he had run out of potash. Bum, bum, bum. He bought some more from the nearest supplier and carried on, but something wasn't right. When he added the potash, the mixture did not turn a strong red as it ought to. Instead, it was pale and pinkish. Perplexed, he began trying to concentrate it. His red lake solution turned first purple, then a deep blue. Diesbach found the man who had sold him the potash, a disreputable fellow alchemist and pharmacist called Johann Conrad Dippel, and demanded an explanation. Dippel deduced that the iron sulfate had reacted strangely with potash because the latter was adulterated with animal oil. The reaction had created potassium ferrocyanide, a compound still known in German as Blutlaugensalz, literally blood alkali salts, which had combined with the iron sulfate to produce iron ferrocyanide, a compound we now know as Prussian blue. So there you have it, the happy mistake that caused the creation of Prussian blue, one of my favorite colors.
It seems like a lot of them were found in that kind of manner, not necessarily with that story, but a lot of them were accidental or asides, almost like the discovery of penicillin.
And there's Ben Hagenbush. Hi, Ben. Good to see you. The science and development of colors throughout history is a really, really interesting way to look at how painting evolved over time. We typically look at John Park just subscribed. Hey, John, thank you for that. That's awesome. Thank you. The science around color and the development of colors was something that I think we take for granted today, where painters, in the Renaissance, before the Renaissance, even after the Renaissance, were limited to certain palettes because either colors just didn't exist or the ones that did exist might not be stable, and painters were suspicious of those things, which was kind of an interesting thing to have that as a limitation. Also, you can look at a typical canon of art history and try and reorganize it by what colors were available and how the technology of the color development impacted the way paintings were made. So kind of an interesting thing. And there is Christina Raymack. Hi, lovely people.
Hi,
hello
Christina.
to you. Are you wearing your t-shirt? Christina got some Todd and Terri swag.
She did. The large glass.
There's Kathy Nolte. Hi, Kathy. Nice to see you.
Hi, Kathy.
Glad to have you. Oh, my gosh. This is 2 streams in a row you've made.
Wow.
Thank you for that. All right. So we got to do some art news.
We do have to do some art news.
Let's pull up some images. Oh, and I always blow it. I always put the wrong guy up first. So let's clear him out because that's not what we want.
Well, he's going to be news later on.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. We're going to have him on in a little while, but we want to clear him out for right now. And let's come up with our current people. So we're going to start off our news tonight with the news we've been giving you for the last couple of weeks. Terri and I are going to be hosting the Hunterdon Art Tours event. Now, this is a big Hunterdon County, New Jersey event where artists from around the area, local artists, open their studio doors and they are on tour. You can go on tour and visit them. Now, of course, given the pandemic, some of those artists are either by appointment only or are limited in their capacities. But nonetheless, it looks like it's going to be quite an event, and there are already 60 participants that are going to be, involved. Now, what we're going to be doing is this is on a Saturday and a Sunday, May 1st and 2nd. And on the Friday night before, April 30th, we will be at the Hunterdon Art Museum, practically by ourselves with all of our streaming gear. And the 100 and Art Museum will have an exhibition in place of all the artists that will be on the tour. So we'll be there hosting a Zoom meeting with all the artists in the Zoom meeting. We will have a couple of live people with us that are going to be interviewed there. And it's going to be kind of a kickoff celebration, like an opening reception, to sort of precede the tour. You'll be able to see the artists' work, decide if you want to go to any of their studios, and it looks like it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that, and I have a few. There's the 100 and Art Museum in beautiful Clinton, New Jersey. So, if you can, please join us on Friday night, April 30th, 7 to 9 p.m. We would love to have you. It's going to be a great event. I am sure the chat room is going to be flying by because this is going to be big.
Yeah, and Christina says I'll be open all weekend. No appointment needed, just mask up.
All right, so we've got one of the artists right here. Well, two of the artists right here with us right now. I'm the other one. We're together in this one, so that's good. So definitely come and check that out. All right, next on the list, the Guggenheim Fellowships were announced. I believe it was just a couple of days ago. And so I figured this was good news. Now, there's too many Guggenheim Fellows this year to list them all. That would be a very, very long news segment. We don't want to get into it that much, but I decided to pick a couple that I thought were interesting, one of which caught my eye because we want to put her on the show, right? And then all of a sudden, she's got a Guggenheim Fellowship, and it's like,
there you go.
Whittemore CCC will be showcasing 5 artists during that. That is correct. So in Tewksbury, if you're in the Tewksbury area, you can stop by Whittemore for a whole bunch of events, and I'm sure you can check that out on their website. Carolyn, I'm going to see if I can find the website to put up on the screen, but you can pop it into the chat if you want to. So it looks to be like a great event. Anyway, back to the Guggenheim Fellows for 2021. First up, we have an artist named Tourmaline, who is a trans activist filmmaker who received a Guggenheim Fellowship. This is a still from her film Salacia. So really cool that she got one of those fellowships. And then secondly, thanks Carolyn for the link. Secondly, we have Michelle Grabner. And Michelle Grabner is featured at, she is at the James Cohen Gallery. Her show just ended, actually, but there's a really cool video that they did on her and her studio. You can go watch it. I'm hoping to actually show it when we talk about her on our show. But she also received a fellowship. Now, she works as a painter. She works a lot with textiles and the use of the fabrics in textiles as a filter through which she paints. And her process is fascinating, and her work is absolutely gorgeous. So totally down with that. But that is what I've got for news.
All right.
So that's that, so to speak. We keep using the word that.
That's.
The 100 and Art Tour.
Yes.
Keeps coming up over and over again.
Yes, it does.
All right. So what's next?
Birthdays.
Birthdays.
Yes. We love birthdays.
We do. We do. Let's see. Let's go back here and let's pull up our birthdays.
All right.
So wait a minute.
This looks
oh boy.
Like the guy from last week.
It does. So I got to admit, guys, my whole Streamlabs broadcasting software 2 hours, maybe 4 hours ago, crashed.
Yes.
Crashed, and I was like, I was there. I was like, I was done with tonight's show. I'm getting ready to sit on the deck and have a good time. I'm like, hey, Gary Palker's here. Nice to see you. And then the system crashed, and it's looking like the birthdays thing didn't work.
It looks like it didn't, but that's okay. We can just announce them and...
Yeah, why don't we? We can announce them. I don't know what the heck happened there. Let me just see. Yeah, it didn't save any of my progress.
Oh yeah, it's all last week. That's okay.
All right. Well, let's do this. Let's just talk about this week's birthdays. We can talk about them. All right. So let's get this guy off the screen. Birthdays. Sorry about that, Waterhouse. You got to go. All right. So.
Well, we can start with the first one, which is on April 14th, which is tomorrow. Robert Desnos. He was born in 1912, French photographer. He worked with Henri Cartier-Bresson, and he helped to establish photojournalism as we know it today.
Yeah, fantastic photographer. I'm actually trying to see if I could pull up some of their work, but it's too little too late. So let's just keep on going. So after that, we have the 15th.
So the 15th of April is a big day.
Yes.
There's a lot of birthdays. That's my parents' anniversary, 49 years this year.
Wow.
So on the 15th of April, we have Leonardo da Vinci in 1452. We also have Thomas Hart Benton in 1889 with his beautiful rolling landscapes and American.
I'm so mad I don't have these images. I had some great images to throw up there.
He's fantastic.
I'm a terrible show host.
We have Achille Gorky.
Achille Gorky, yep.
Yes. 1904, he was an abstract expressionist. And then we also have in 1915 Elizabeth Catlett.
Yep.
She was a sculptor and graphic artist. And that was it for the 15th. And then we have one more on the 16th, which is Barclay Hendricks. And he does a lot of black portraiture and conceptualism.
Yeah, I hate username 67. It's like, Leo who? Yeah, it's this guy. He really, small potatoes, didn't really do much in his time. So look, maybe you could find him. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so those are the birthdays.
Yeah, and I picked out some really beautiful images. So I'm just going to keep teasing our audience about what we had.
The funny thing is we know so many of those artists, so that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, it is. But all right, well, here's to faulty technology and my using it as an excuse. So happy birthday to all of them.
Happy birthday.
All right. So I guess we're going to get right into our artists. It's early.
Yeah, that's okay, because we're covering 2 artists tonight, and there's a lot to see.
Now, now I am like terrified that what we need to do. There's Dave Schmidt.
Hey,
hi, Dave. Nice to see you. I'm terrified that what the next button I push is going to be like.
But that's okay, because we can pull them up, too.
We can. We can make it work.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see if I can pull that. Well, let's start here. Hold on a second. Let's see if we can go here. We're going to start with a couple of stills before we jump into those videos, because we do have a few, and I think it would be nice to kind of show who they are and a little bit about their work.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with Arthur Ganson.
Right. So Arthur Ganson, we kind of moved away from last week's portraiture series, and we wanted to get a little bit more, we wanted to shake things up a little bit. So that's why we're going into some kinetic sculptors tonight. This is Arthur Ganson. He was born in 1955 in Hartford, Connecticut. He does sculpture, and I feel like we have to watch him to talk about him. He has a BFA from the University of New Hampshire. Mostly his art centers, the first time I saw him was in a TED Talk, and he was talking about how he got started. And what he liked as a child, he was very introverted, and how he would amuse himself is, the flip books with the drawings, and you can kind of animate the drawings around. He was fascinated by them. So in the margins of his book, he would actually draw these books, and he would make these little animation series.
Right.
And it's really called the Rube Goldberg effects.
Yeah.
Which is like this cause and effect chain reaction kind of thing that he used in his cartoons.
Right, and Rube Goldberg was famous for making these cartoon machines that were like fascinating contraptions essentially. And by the way, Jess Park followed, thanks. And Jay Teisman says that's from the MIT Museum, and yes, that is the first place I saw Arthur Ganson. And I think my friends, and I hate username 67, I believe you were there with me when we first saw Arthur Ganson at the MIT Museum. I think you had to practically drag me out of there because I was like really not wanting to go. We had shown up there pretty late, and I think we closed the place if I'm not mistaken. But negative or digital? You mean, in terms of the photography that we mentioned before, I think, Gary, can you elaborate a little bit more on that question? Because I'm not sure. It was with Seth, the performer of lights class, I think. Okay, so we have an inside joke about this. I could get him going really hilariously. We laugh about this guy all the time. We're not going to do that on the show. Okay. But we had a really funny teacher at RISD who taught us a course on light. We learned about fiber optics, holograms, and he was kind of, God, what if he's watching? he was a sweet man, but he was kind of like was it Doug Henning and Jesus had a baby? I mean, he was just like this. Anyway, he was something else, and everything was made of light. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Or maybe Dean Snyder. Yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, so Arthur Ganson, MIT Museum. If you ever get up to Boston, you must go and see this show of his work there.
Or you could just buy the sculpture that's for sale right now. But we'll get into that later. One of them's for sale.
Yeah. So
crazy.
He makes these beautifully intricate machines that function, right? And most of the time the function associated with the machine is completely nonsensical or just, really doesn't have a point. Some do, some don't. Some have these kind of like little superfluous movements, but there's a beauty in them, there's a precision in them, and there's a wonder in them. If you get our newsletter, I went on a little bit about wonder today and how this idea, this sort of very hard to put your finger on feeling or I'm not even sure it's an emotion, but this reaction in a person that comprises wonder is something that really drives us. Mm-hmm. It really makes us curious. Mm-hmm. It drives us to creativity, I think. And I know that, sometimes seeing things that are sort of marvelous sort of creates that kind of wonderment. And so Ganson's works definitely do that. And so we're going to see all of these machines working.
That's the piece that's for sale right now, by the way. I just wanted to point that out.
And you know what? I'm not going to say anything about what this actually does because I don't want to spoil it. Okay. But I did want to have a couple of images up there for people to see so that we could introduce him. Mm-hmm. And I want to try and see if I can get this working now. So let's just see something. If I go here, give me a second because I'm going to pull up the first of our videos, and it might take me a second. But Terri, do you have anything else you want to, sort of tell us about him, or while I'm kind of fumbling through my process here?
I guess I can explain him a little bit. He's a cross between mechanical engineering, physics, and aesthetics, really. He has exhibits all over the place, most known for MIT Museum. Harvard's Carpenter Center for the Visual Arts, the De Cordova Museum, National Inventors Hall of Fame, the Smithsonian National Museum of American History, and the National Mall in Washington, D.C. So he has pieces all over the place. He's been featured in lots of publications, Smithsonian, New York Times Magazine. He teaches classes in mechanics and wire bending at MIT.
Yeah. I would die to take a class with this guy. I would love to. Let's take a look at this first one here. Have a look. I got to tell you, while the 4:3 ratio of the filmmaking on this is a little bit old, right? I do appreciate the sound, which Mike Rader just pointed out that the sound in these is great. So the recording really appreciates the sound. Whoops, this is not our guy. This is not our guy. Please hold. It always jumps to that video for some reason. So I'm going to move through a couple more of these because we've got a lot of them. And for some reason, you know, this is going to be one of those days where I just have endless problems with the video. All right.
So this one's one of my favorites. It's called Machine with an Abandoned Doll. And the doll was actually found alongside of a highway in California. And when he picked up the doll, he loved the way that it moved, and he started to visualize the machine moving it. So we'll have a look.
Yeah, take a look at this one.
Ugh. Let it be.
I will. This is the part that I just can't get enough of, is when you get down into the mechanics. Ben is saying this guy is a wizard. How can you compete with this? It's true. All right, so let's see. Let's move on. I still have more to show you. So in that still image that we had before that I said I wasn't going to give it away, this piece is just absolutely gorgeous and fluid, and it really will take your breath away. And as Terry mentioned before, which is odd, I've never seen an Arthur Ganson piece come up for sale before.
But this one's up for
now
sale.
This one is, which I've never seen before.
It's called Machine with 23 Scraps of Paper.
Yeah, have a look. Yeah, Mike, apps on the money right there with the Penn and Teller reference. And the videos kind of help to do that.
Yeah, you had said that the videos were a little bit older. I think I was misunderstanding you.
Well, they don't use a widescreen format. So Jay Teisman, I love this next one. It's so elegant and hypnotic. I know. When I saw this and it almost makes you cry. It's so beautiful. Those posts are so tall. Same here. I hate using a 67, absolutely. I mean, I love every one of them, but this one just stands out. Right? I know. This piece, and talk about wonderment sparking that cognitive kind of, the juices for creativity. I came home from seeing this piece and just launched into a body of work, not a body of work, but an answer to an assignment I was working on at the time in grad school that was just like, Carolyn says, this reminds me of the adventures of Baron von Steuben and Cromwell, a kinetic tale at the Morris Museum in 2019. Ooh, I didn't see that. All right.
Yeah, stunning.
Stunning
yes.
from Christina. Yeah, I know. These are like, all right, if you liked those, let's do another one. All right. I think it's good that we just kind of keep plowing through these because they just, there's so much. He could make a machine for deep tissue massage. Well, wait till you see this one. Now, he said when he was making this that, he talks a lot about his process. I'll shut up and let you watch it, and then I'll talk about it. Ben's like, oh, come on. Yeah, Ron, these are genius, absolutely. And Jay Tyson, 27, this machine gives the wishbone a character, a real personality in the way it walks. And that's part of the point I was going to get to when I mentioned his process, which he talks about. And you hit it spot on with that. Mm-hmm. So one of the things he said was, you're told as a child not to play with your food. And it was after dinner, and he was sort of playing with the wishbone at the table, and he could just sort of, he was kind of walking it across the table, right? And of course, given his thought process and the way he builds.
Well, there's a lot of things going on with his sculptures in general. They're very playful, but there is some kind of existential commentary going on as well. I mean, you see the wishbone, and is it dragging the machinery behind it? And the machinery itself has its own tail because he designed it. It's beautiful. Yeah. And what you were saying, I keep going back to what you were saying earlier about the camera angles and it being old, but each still and I don't know if he's the one who's shooting these videos or he has somebody else, but each still isolates a piece of the equipment and really gives it a whole new beauty.
Right. Right, and that's kind of what I was getting to before, is how, Mike Rader's comment about Penn and Teller revealing the magic trick, but it's still being magical. Yeah. It's like this slow reveal. Mm-hmm. And what he points out in one of his talks is that this machine with the wishbone is about this big. It's not, let me see if I can get both of my hands in front of it. It's not a giant piece of sculpture.
Right.
And so there's this kind of, intimacy that the video provides into the piece that you kind of, you appreciate, first of all, but it also kind of gives character to that wishbone in a way that almost makes it human.
Yeah.
Right? And Jay Tyson just said, it rolled way up on my chat, but it says, it's fascinating that the machine is powering the wishbone to walk, but it's the wishbone that looks like it's pulling a giant machine, which is just what you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate username 67, although their work is very different in one way. I always thought his work and the brothers Quay were similar in many others. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. Totally. I love that reference, actually. So another thing I like about this video is that intimacy in the way that the video reveals is, I love that motor, that image of the motor rolling that little pin, that little
piston.
No, I'm really just brain farting in the worst way.
All right.
But it's spinning.
The thingy. Right?
Yeah.
It's rolling the thingamajig.
Yeah, so it's spinning. That axle is spinning on the edge of that wheel, right? And you really get a sense of the gear reduction, meaning that the motor spins quickly, but the wheel is so large, right, that it's he really does a good 50-to-1 kind of reduction. Now we've got a piece we're going to see in a little while that really capitalizes on that 50-to-1 reduction.
Some of his mechanics, though, he's hand making them, and you see repetitive themes over and over again in other sculptures, and it's really gorgeous. Like this one cog that he keeps doing that looks like a sunburst.
Yeah, the gear.
The way that it attaches to the coil when it's going on and
pins.
on. Yes.
Yeah.
And you keep seeing the same kind of stuff moving forward in his sculpture.
Right. Well, and for those of you that are really interested in the making side of this, he used to have this fantastic video. He made his own wire bending jig, which is basically just a steel plate with a series of holes around a center point. And what happens is the wire gets caught, a pin moves through that series of holes and allows the wire to be bent back and forth to create some of his geared mechanisms. So here's one that's slightly different. He gets into a chair theme. There's a lot of chair imagery in his work. Take a look at this first one, because I think it's one of the first ones that worked with the chair. So he had this image in his mind of an exploding chair. And Jay Tysman, 27, says, the yellow chair is classic. This was the first Ganson work I saw, and it completely blew me away. It's the fast, slow movement as the chair comes together and blows apart, driven by a simple chain and those elegant levers. Yeah, so it's kind of like this. He had talked about it coming apart infinitely fast and coming back together infinitely fast.
And then landing together with such precision, too. It catches you off guard, and you're like, every single time. It's such a spectacle. It's beautiful.
Right. And on that black background, it kind of offers this kind of invisibility. For the first time, the machine isn't necessarily hidden, but it's not front and center. The chair sort of takes, the main stage. So here's another one with a chair that he has. This one is Thinking Chair. And there's a rock in this machine. You can see it here. The chair is on the surface of this rock. It's a rock he picked up on one of his favorite hiking paths in Massachusetts. Have a look. Oh, sorry about that. That should be all the way back here. Let's do it again. Here we go. Spoiler alert, you saw the end. Let's see the beginning. Is that the whole thing? No, we didn't see that. And then this simple offset wheel that causes that lever to go up and down. It's as if Sisyphus sculpted this work, yeah, for sure. Because in the end, there's so much intricacy and thought, engineering that goes into this ultimately for an end result that is, of course, beautiful, right? But there's something beautiful in the pointlessness, right? I mean, of course, it sparks thought, and it creates this kind of, wonder that we talked about before. But I love how the machine moves around the rock. The rock is stationary, and everything moves around that stationary rock.
Yeah, and for all of that effort, it doesn't go anywhere.
It really doesn't. It just keeps walking around the rock.
Yeah.
Now, there's one that's coming up in a little bit. Do I have that one?
There's some more comments. My grader says, never saw that either. Holy moly, intoxicating. And later on, he says that chair was like an exploding view from a set of directions, but in some kind of mental time space. Jesus.
Yeah. It's and watching these and listening to these is almost like a form of meditation. Yeah, for sure. There's one I got to find and pull up for you that I didn't have on here. It's the one with the leaf. But let's just take a look at Margot's cat, because this one is a very well-known one. If you've ever seen his work before, this one's pretty mind-boggling. So pay attention to the counterweight on the back of the arm that holds this chair. Margot's other cat. Again, there's a very dramatic and slow build-up. this one has such a life to it that is sort of sparked by the slightest touch. And a lot of it has to do with that monster counterweight on the back. It's a funny tongue-in-cheek play on the cat, too, right? Because now the chair plays with the cat versus the cat playing with the object.
That's true.
Right.
This one always gives me an element of suspense. I don't know why, but I always feel like, what's it going to land on?
Yeah, and how high is it going to go the next time? J. Tyson 27. It's hysterical. The chair tripping over the cat is too funny. I could watch it forever. Yeah, it's like this. It's this really funny play.
Yeah, and how he gets it to look
like it's in slow motion. And it's a combination of the up and down and that gentle rotation. The bearings in this that cause that fluid spin, and that's the one that fascinates me. The up and down movement, I get it. The counterweight pulls it up and down. But that rotational spin is so gentle and so fluid that I'm still having trouble figuring out how that works. Uh-oh, Jeff Mark just redeemed his loyalty points. We have to toast him.
Oh.
Jeff Mark, cheers.
Cheers.
Good to have you. It's nice to see you here. This one's for you. All of a sudden, our viewers all realize that for 500 viewer loyalty points, they could get us completely intoxicated. Oh, toast me, toast me. Ooh. Carolyn, it was nice to see you. It's okay that you have to go. Sorry you have to leave. But thanks for coming, and thanks for the sub. You're awesome. We appreciate that. Yeah, Jeff says, I honestly didn't know what I was doing, huh?
Audrey asks, what's the size of this piece? That's a good question. Let me see if I can find it.
It's not tiny. It's relatively large, but it's not like the next piece we're going to show you.
It's currently on exhibit at the MIT Museum in Cambridge. Let's see. Let me just do a thing here.
Yeah, so that's going to be, this one then just comes to kind of a stop. The carpet stops moving back and forth. The chair does its final little tumble and bounces to a halt. Really beautiful piece. Let's see. I want to show, I'm going to pull up, I'm just going to go to his website really quickly because there's a couple I had on here that somehow we got sidetracked away from. And where is the other chair one? Not Margot's other chair, but the massive chair. It's this one.
It's that one.
Yep. Okay, so on the chair theme, he imagined a dance with the chair because he had already done some pieces with the chair, and this one comes in much more theatrically. This piece is quite large, so the rails that are below this machine that you see in the background right now are more like dolly rails for a film set. Almost, I won't say they're the size of railroad rails, but they are rather large. That center geared piece is easily 5 feet high. So have a look at this one. This one's got a little bit of a nice setup to it. You get to see a time lapse of them putting it together. At least I hope this is not 20 minutes long. No, it's 4 minutes, but it's definitely worth it. I'll speed it up a little bit.
Well, it's just... Hey, Chris, did you... Yeah.
J. Tyson 27 says it's maybe 2 feet by 2 feet wide and deep.
Yeah.
I think it's about right. Yeah, that seems right on. You have a much better memory of MIT's museum than I do. Dimensions are... They slip away from me. It's the great thing about the setup on this is you really get a sense of the scale.
Turn it.
Yeah, I like this part too.
Oh, I see the problem. We're close. We're really close.
The troubleshooting.
Yeah, there's got to be a fair bit. And here we go. Piece. You know, one thing I want to point out here that I think is really important to mention is that, you know, if we stop to think about the making of these things, you know, we might make the mistake of veering off into the engineering world too much. And Ganson does not employ that. I mean, he does to some degree employ that side of his brain, but he also has the artist brain working, where he problem solves from the idea sort of down into the physical world, right? So he might see the chair floating in the air and see an arm that is articulating through a series of rotations, and then see a geared mechanism. Rather than try and come up with you know, just the right gear ratio in the machine, he's more thinking about the poetics of the movement. He actually started this one with the sound of the guitar. He really wanted to do a piece. He played guitar. He wanted to kind of add that. So there's this side of the work here that, and this is the part I think that sort of defies the typical MIT engineering side of the world. And I love that MIT celebrates this guy because he's got a sort of, he enters the creative realm through this sort of engineering back door, which I think is just, I love that kind of problem solving.
Just as an aside, was he playing the guitar on that video or no? Was that?
I don't know for sure, but I think so.
Okay.
Because he mentioned that aspect of playing guitar, but I can't be certain.
Okay.
All right, let's do one more, and that's going to be this one. I love this one. And it says, oh, did he make the film? Oh, beautiful. I think the filmmaker missed the point. To your point. I think he made the film or was directly involved in directing it. Mm-hmm. So, because he saw this one more as a performative piece. Mm-hmm. So, Gary says, these works show me a deep... Yeah, he's definitely a deep thinker. Absolutely. And I think that goes back to when he was a child and he kind of had that sort of reclusive, non-social aspect to his personality. He talks about how he made things to connect with people. That's his way of, he said this was his way of showing his love to people because he couldn't do it.
Well, one of his most valuable quotes when I was looking through everything, he had said, these machines are meaningless apart from that which the observer brings to them.
Yeah.
So it was a way to engage in some kind of conversation or dialogue that was not an easy thing for him to do.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
I want to show the last one that has just a sense of humor in it, and I love this piece, and it just kind of goes to show now we're going to go to the other side of it, the engineering thought process side of it, because this piece I think embodies that, but at the same time conceptually it's got a little tongue-in-cheek moment in it. But we're not going to play this one for too long, and then we're going to move on to our next artist. So check this out. It doesn't tell you much, so I'll explain. That gear is embedded in concrete. And the word we were looking for before that we called the thing we were talking about, a shaft. So the motor's shaft in this is spinning, right? And then we have our first set of gears, which is a 50 to 1 gear reduction. And then another 50 to 1, and another 50 to 1, and another 50 to 1, and another 50 to 1. And goes through. Now, what you have to understand too is in those three sets of gears, there are multiple 50 to 1 reductions. And if I'm not mistaken, there are a total of 12 50 to 1 reductions in there. And so the final element of the shaft is embedded in a piece of concrete. And the reason for that is he did the math on this. And before that shaft at the very end that's in the concrete will be able to actually turn if the machine runs continuously, it will take 12.7 billion years for that shaft to turn.
Oh boy.
He did the math on that. 12.7 billion years. So I love that piece that he just kind of like
that's pretty
pegged
cool.
that into the concrete.
Yeah.
All right, so Arthur Ganson, and just a fantastic maker, fantastic imaginative mind.
Well, you had wanted to feature him for quite some time, so this is good that we got to do it.
The compression reminds me of Jonathan Shipper's The Slow Inevitable Death of American Muscle. I don't know that. We got to look that one up.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to pull up our next artist.
Yep.
Do you want to look up Jonathan Shipper?
Sure.
Jamie Foster, hey, how are you? Brilliant artist. I love the Wishbone Machine the best. Thank you for sharing him. Thanks for checking him out, and thanks for being here, by the way. I know that you were on last time, and I missed you, so I'm not missing you this time. All right, let's check out our next artist, and I'm going to pop back over to this window for a second because I've got to get rid of our video window and come back here. And of course, this is still Arthur Ganson, but let's just go a few slides over to this man. Now, a lot of you have probably seen this guy before because his works are really absolutely mind-bendingly incredible, and they do show up in, videos on YouTube, social media, and whatnot. His name is Theo Jansen. He is a Dutch sculptor, And yeah, Mom says he is so amazing. Absolutely, absolutely. Jay Tysman 27, thank you. This was wonderful. Reminds me so much of Calder's work. Yeah, it does definitely have an air of Calder, and there's this kind of interesting connection. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on Theo Jansen tonight, but we do have a 4-minute video to show you of this guy's work and a couple of images. But this guy functions on a slightly different level, which to me is, you want to talk about him a little bit? Because you've got some great notes.
Sure. So he's Dutch. His real name is Theodorus Gerardus Josef Theo Jansen. He is most known for his Strandbeest series. So when he was younger, he did pursue a degree, but he dropped out. He was going through the Delft University of Technology. That was back in 1974. And then he was kind of working with sculpture. He, much like Ganson, there's an engineering background. But he started working with PVC pipe and sculpting back around 1990. And that's when he first started his series that has become his lifelong obsession.
And his materials are really, really limited in that everything is PVC pipe, zip ties, plastic bottles, certain type of fabric.
Yeah, some fabric, some like old recycled lemonade bottles and stuff like that.
Okay, first of all, Jeff Mart's comment, got to see some of his creations on display at the Exploratorium here in San Francisco. The scale is incredible.
The scale is
okay. First of all, Jeff,
huge.
I'm insanely jealous of that because I saw some video footage of when he came to San Francisco, and he was out on a beach with Savage, the guy from that TV show where they debunk. It's a How It's Kind of Made show. And he's one of the most awesome makers on the planet if you watch some of his shows.
Adam Savage.
Adam Savage, exactly. And Adam Savage was out on the beach with Theo Jansen, and they were kind of talking to each other. And Adam Savage was awestruck. Now, this is a guy who can make anything. And he was absolutely awestruck at this man's capability. Then I Hate Username 67 says, kill it. You know, if that were the size of your thumb and crawling on the floor, you'd yell, kill it. Gary Palker, very deep show tonight. Must sign off. Love to all. Take care, Gary. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Big fan of him, too. Mythbusters, thank you. I am I don't know what's wrong with the brain tonight. It might have something to do with age. So I got a couple slides of the work here, but more importantly, I've got this beautiful video that kind of shows a bit of an evolution of his Strandbeests. And it does not get in intimately close to the workings. There are videos online where you can actually see that, and some of these things, the mechanisms. Now you're going to see a lot of cams and linkages that all sort of function in a way that make these things walk. Right, but Jansen has gone so much further in this. He's developed a system where these plastic discarded lemonade bottles and rubber tubing pressurize through the movement, and then through a series of what he refers to as binary switches, almost like zeros and ones, switching on and off, create a pattern of repetition that he's developed a way for them to sense where the water line on the beach is. They've developed an ability to sense when the wind is too strong, and they can drive a spike into the ground by themselves.
Yep, they have all these adaptive processes to elements that would otherwise destroy them.
Right. And ultimately, he has this, he does not see these as machines. He sees them as living beings.
Yeah, with a brain.
With a brain. And he wants to set them free on the beaches. He wants to actually let them go and go have their own life and let them do their thing.
And he does do this quite a bit in Holland. He'll have his sculptures roaming on some of the beaches over there.
And you know what? We forgot to show the Ganson dodecapede.
Oh.
That
we did.
We forgot to show that.
Maybe we'll just show that real quick because that's a nice segue into.
Give us a little more. Can you talk a little bit more about Jansen really quickly? I just want to pull. I don't mean to put you on the spot there.
No, that's okay. There's not a whole much more to say. His pieces are really going to speak for himself. I feel like both artists, their pieces are doing much of the talking that normally we would do. But basically he's intent on making new forms of life with these creations. And the other thing I love about them is some of the titles that he gives to them, because it's almost like a genus and species. He starts identifying them, and there's a certain kind of classification system to actually make them more like living things.
And we had a great segue video on the part of Arthur Ganson that shows a really good connection between these two. And so I want to just briefly pull that up for a second, so bear with me while I do that. Let's go here and here and here. Have a look at this real quick. Now, this is back to Arthur Ganson. We're not on Theo Jansen right now. We're on Arthur Ganson, the first artist. But take a look at this piece just for a sec. It's not freezing. This is how he does it. All right, so you see him pulling this walking creature out, and it's a perfect segue into what we're about to watch. So let's go here, and let me just take a second to pull this up. It's going to take me a minute. Nothing works, but that's okay. Here we go. Have a look at this. Ben says it reminds him of Burning Man. Yeah, it does kind of have a Burning Man feel to it. Yes, Pumpkin Laundry, it is. Jamie Foster says, can you imagine being on a beach sunbathing and all of a sudden one of these things comes lumbering over?
Mm-hmm. Needs to be in the next Star Wars, totally. Boo Jazz feels like a glimpse of 2030. Yeah, kind of. Look at this one. 2030 is not that far away.
It's not that far away, right? It's supposed to be far away, but it's not anymore.
The joints and articulation.
Yeah.
From an anatomical standpoint, that's just so gorgeous.
Right, and the legs, the feet barely lift off the ground. They know just the right lift and trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to store energy, so when one is sitting still like that, they're actually filling up these pressurizing bottles with air that they can use as a kind of battery. Jake Tyson 27 says, reminds me of the choreography of synchronized swimming. Yeah, right? Right? As a body pattern. Yes, Mike, to link arms. I was just going to say to Mike Rader to link arms with your fellow bipeds and stroll along the beach. Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting.
I like that.
Yeah.
They're almost like little deaths. It's sad. That's how you figure these things out. So good. Now the real thing I love about Theo Jansen is there's a certain sort of democratic sense to the way in which he works, in that all of his plans, building plans, engineering, they're available online because he wants students to learn from him. And so all of these discoveries he's made in this kind of movement, he offers up for nothing. Go make them. He wants to see people. He actually said that these machines breed.
Yeah.
And the way they breed is through the wonderment that we receive and feel compelled to go out and make more of them, which is...
Yeah, one of the movies when I was researching him, there was a really great 4-minute clip where he was there with his illustrations and diagrams, and then it showed him creating a piece, and then the piece walking around on the beach. So it was this really awesome, from inception of an idea, the very beginnings of it, all the way to the end.
Yeah, and in this show, and I think Jeff Mart, I don't know if you're still here or not, but I believe in the San Francisco show, there was a wall of all of these mechanisms in the PVC sort of laid out like an exploded diagram that was like, this is how this works, this is how this works, so on and so forth. So let's see, we've got some comments here. This is from Ben says, from a distance, you would think it was people doing this. Yeah, on a weird level, it has all of those humanistic kind of articulations. Mike Raderhead, please Disney call him for Star Wars. I'm begging. Pumpkin Audrey wants to know if I can make one. Yeah, but mine might be a little more sinister. It's just me. No, but so in the end, I like that kind of, I like that these sort of, Mike Rader's comments about Disney and Star Wars are not off the mark, in that there is something so fantastical and science fiction or otherworldly about these that you just and Jamie Foster said it earlier about, could you imagine being on the beach and seeing one of these walking along, like up behind you or coming up to you? It would just be mind-blowing.
It's a mix of things. It's terrifying but really awesome. And
yes, and that, the terrifying, that is actually an enormous part of what drives wonder, is fear. There's a little element of fear in wonder, and that is the fear of the unknown. But it's not enough fear to kick in fight or flight. It's a fear of this thing you've never seen before, that invokes a curiosity, which is, to me, just fantastic. I hate username 67 says kill it. Come on, man, you can't kill that. It's definitely made to kill you.
Yes.
All right. So that is our show tonight. That's it.
Yeah.
I think that it was...
that was beautiful.
I liked it.
It was moving. See what I did there?
See, that's a dad joke.
That's my role on this show.
No, I thought that was my joke.
I guess so. All right. So we got some great show. Be well. Woo, I'm getting tired or drunk, whichever.
Yeah, not enough toasting tonight. That was awesome, guys. Thank you. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna roll
the credits.
The credits. Whoops, wait, I stopped the rolling. There they go. I love that we have credits now. All right, so Everybody, thanks for supporting us. Thanks to the new subscribers and the new followers.
Yes,
it's awesome to have
you.
new people coming and hanging out. We got a very cool show planned for next week. We have a very cool show planned for April 27th. We're going to be with the Brownstone Art again, doing a show through them. And then April 30th, of course, we're doing our Hodderdon Art Tour. Mm-hmm. I think we need to toast.
I think so.
So to all of you for hanging out with us through all of these shows, through 32 episodes.
32.
It's pretty awesome.
That is.
Anyway, cheers to all of you. Thanks again. We'll talk soon. Stay well.